Hello and welcome to round number 5 of the Gavra Racing GT7 League. We're here for the Nurburgring in Germany, where 13 cars will try their best to win this race. Qualifying has been done and we will go through the starting grid for today's race. Starting at the back in 13th place, we've got Gavra in the Porsche 911, starting in 13th, as you can see by his grid slot on the bottom. Ahead of him, Black Country Mush in the Mercedes with a 158.0. Sees him start in 12th place. Ahead of him, Fett in 11th in the Porsche, ahead of Gavra. The Norwegian starts in 11th place, and in 10th place, Aston F1 in the Ford GT. For this race, he will start alongside the Toyota Supra of Wiggly Style in 9th. In 8th, we've got Wolfie 907, who had his best qualifying last week in Spa. Let's see if he can make his way through and up the grid rather than backwards on the opening lap. Alongside him, Cameron Kaboom ahead of his teammates in terms of grid slots. 7th and 9th for the two teammates. The Brits will start just behind the Dutchman of Rick Holt, who makes his GT7 League debut in as a replacement for some absentees. Ahead of Rick Holt is Piero in the McLaren, nearly pushed Dutchy all the way to the end at Spa, but just couldn't, different strategies, the two-stop just couldn't quite work for Piero, but did steal second place last week in Spa. Ahead of him, Bon Evil 99 lost the lead of the championship last week in Spa. Lots of things happened last week in Spa. The Alfa Romeo driver will start on the second row of the grid behind the Porsche of Dan Schneider, who starts in 3rd place, less than a tenth, about 200ths off this man, Atom Grin, in as another replacement driver for a couple of absent drivers tonight. But Tim on the front row of the grid, 4 tenths off the pole sitter, who other than Play Dutchy, who takes the lead of the championship, albeit by approximately 6 points. And there is your grid for today's race. All 13 cars lined up off the grid. No me, no Toussaint, no Tiger, but we've still got 13 drivers who will be doing their best to claim victory. Please let me know, guys, if my audio sounds good in the chat. I will do a quick test myself just to see if everything sounds okay. And I can hear myself on my stream, so if you can't, please let me know. If you can't hear me, actually, there's no way of you knowing that I asked that. So, it's all good. There we go. All good in the chat. That's not really a great question to ask if you can't hear me. Because if you can't hear me, you won't be able to hear me asking if you can. Let's stop with the waffle and get into this race. I've actually forgotten how many laps it is. What a great start to the stream. 3 reds, 3, 4, 5 red lights for 29 laps of the Nurburgring, and it's lights out, and away we go. The Porsche slow off the line. Look at Bon Evil on the inside. They're 3 wide going in towards the first corner already. The Italian Alfa Romeo up against the British McLaren, side by side towards the first corner. Dutchy dropping a couple of positions, forced wide and to the outside. Bon Evil with a tank slapper on the exit, but takes the lead in towards turn 2. Tim and Dutchy make a little bit of contact as the front runners make it through fairly cleanly. The two still wheel to wheels. Piero's looking to send one down the inside of Dan Schneider, who's gone a little bit wide through turn 4 in towards turn 5. They go side by side, Dan and Piero. The Frenchman's up to P4 ahead of Dan Schneider. Cameron Kaboom in 6th place. Wolfie making up 1 position into 7th. Whitley in 8th. Rick Holt down to 9th. Aston maintaining 10th. Black Country Mush in 11th. We've already lost a driver. I believe it's Fetz who's retired, and Gavra in 12th place. Bon Evil going defensive to the inside in towards the chicane. Turn number 8 with Dutchy trying to take the lead away from the British driver. Indeed he does. Sends one down the inside on the soft compound tyres. The Dutchman going for something different at the start of this race, starting on the quicker compound tyre, and takes the lead from pole position with Bon Evil on the mediums. Tim starting on the soft compound tyres. Piero also on the mediums. So difference in strategy for some of the top runners, but the couple of drivers in the midfield running on the mediums. Tim on those soft compound tyres would want to get ahead of Bon Evil as quickly as he can, and apologies about a little bit of lag as Bon Evil's gone wide off the track into the gravel, drops a couple of positions down to 5th, 6th, 7th, maybe even 8th as Wiggly Style, Rick Holt and Aston are all going to have the slingshot from the turn 12. Here goes Wrigley Style. Rick Holt on Wrigley Style to the inside, but Wrigley Style breaking late, a little bit braver on the brakes, maintaining 7th place for now. I'm not sure why there is so much lag, Cameron. I've got absolutely no idea, but Aston now on the inside of his teammate Wrigley Style. Not Aston's teammate, Cameron's teammate, as he was just posting a comment in the chat, but not the start Bon Evil would have wanted. Now down to 10th place and has some overtaking to do, but Dutchie takes the lead from pole position in towards turn 1 on lap 2, followed by Tim and Piero. Overtakes at the back with Aston going for a move on the inside of Wrigley Style, who drops down to 9th place. Bon Evil trying to capitalise on the racing action. They're nearly 3 wide through the second corner here at the Nurburgring, with Bon Evil trying to go round the outside of the Toyota Supra. I've been given the all clear in the chat from all the drivers, no complaints about the lag, so I'm not sure why the replay camera is so laggy, but it hasn't affected any of the drivers in this race, I believe. So apologies about the aesthetics of the stream, but the quality of racing will hopefully still be as good. Wrigley Style under pressure and Bon Evil, who might try and go for a move in towards the hairpin, not waste any time in making moves through the field. Late on the brakes, can he make it stick though without forcing Wrigley Style off the track? Indeed he does, up into 9th place, and Aston F1's the next car on the overtaking list for him. Wolfie now up into 6th place, gaining 2 positions, already a better start than he had last time out in Spa. Piero going a little bit wide through turn 12, allowing Dan Schneider and the BWT Porsche just to close in on the Frenchman, but the 2 drivers on the soft compound tyres starting to pull away from those on the mediums. Tim trailing Play Dutchie, the Dutchman leading the championship going into this race. He led after the first race in the Nurburgring, but dropped behind Bon Evil after a mistake in the strategy at Sardinia, but some solid points at Brands Hatch, and now he's back up on top in the championship, and his nearest rival down to 7th place. As someone's in the wall, that's Rick Holt in the final sector through the chicane of 14 and 15, and drops to 12th place behind Dazzler and Black Country Mush. Wrigley Style going heavily defensive to the inside in his battle with Aston F1, and the Swedish driver trying to keep the Brit behind, but the 4GT lunges one to the inside. Was there contact? I'm not sure. Looked like Wrigley Style had to yield from the send, but Aston gets up into 8th place. The Toyota Supra, albeit a rocket ship down the straight, does struggle for cornering performance, and the wind speed has picked up here at the Nurburgring. I wouldn't particularly say it's a power-hungry circuit, as Dan Schneider's got up into 3rd place, into a podium position now for the Dutchman, ahead of Piero. But the thing is with Piero is he always seems to be at the front by the end of the race when it matters. And here we go now to the inside, down at the hairpin, keeping it nice and tight to the apex. And Schneider going a little bit wide, giving Piero the room. But the Frenchman in the McLaren gets back up into 3rd place and in a podium position, as Attenborough has set the fastest lap of the race, albeit with a 5/10th penalty collected somewhere on this lap. My best bet is somewhere within the 1st sector or the final chicane. The 2 easiest places to cut a corner or go wide at this circuit. Drivers might struggle to keep it within track limits as they go through the Schumacher S's on the worn medium compound tyres. Softs should be able to do it comfortably, as we watch Black Country Mush try his best to keep up with the Wrigley Style in the early phases of this race. Dazzler also on the soft compound tyres, just dropping off the back of the Brits as well, but he's in 11th place, and if he can finish in 11th, will add 1 point to his points tally. But as the drivers make their way down the start-finish straight for the 4th time out of 29 laps in this race, Piero, he's got no one in front of him for a couple of seconds, and he might have 1 car in front of him, or at least alongside, going into the braking zone of turn 1. Dan Schneider in the end deciding to back out of a potential move that will see him gain his spot back onto the podium. Cameron Green with a little bit of a twitch on the exit of turn 2 as he tucks in behind Dan and Piero. Maybe Cameron Green might use the pace that he has in the Lexus to sit behind Dan Schneider and maybe save a little bit of fuel in order to have a shorter pit stop later on in the race and get ahead of these 2. The Nurburgring is a decent track for overtaking, plenty of opportunities in GT3 cars. However, it is kind of a track that does use the tyres quite a fair bit. It really promotes fresh compounds of tyres. The undercuts, I can see that being a powerful strategy, and Tim and Dutchy, they've done well on those soft compound tyres to pull the gap to Piero in third place. Tim with the 5/10 penalty, that's going to cost him when he approaches the penalty gates, which is on this back straight in between turn 12 and turn 13, as you can see by the yellow bar. He slows down for 5:10. In which league is X-Natty G racing? Well, he does race in this league, but he was absent at a karting event during this race. He also races in the weekend league and is also a full-time legend. Never mind. I found it quite hard to get past anyone because the Lexus struggles to put the power down on slower corners. Just about read the message before it appeared off my screen. That was Cameron Boone complaining about his the performance in the Lexus. I think they had an overtake at the back. No, just the leaderboard's flickering. Well, Cameron Boone does have pace. He does have... He seems strong in that Lexus. Speaking of, he's tucked up nicely behind the Porsche. Dan Schneider going in towards turn 1. The Dutchman pulls over, defensive to the inside. But the Lexus possibly lacking in acceleration out of corner exit. Bon Eagle now up into 6th place after getting the move done on Wolfie, who now drops to 7th place, but is still one position higher than his qualifying position, so improvements from the last race in Spa. Lucas in the chat saying he wanted to watch him race. What a legend the commentator is as well. Well, a little bit of a secret, Lucas, that I think you should know is I am X-Natty G, the GOAT himself. That is me, so it's great to have you in the stream, tuning into the GT7 leagues. This seems kind of awkward now, I can't lie. But yeah, usually I am on the grid, but couldn't make it to this race. Thankfully, Gran Turismo has the race replay feature, so I can also do commentary for the race as well. So Dutchy in the lead of the race, claiming a point for pole position, and has got a point for fastest lap if he can keep it by the end of the race. So could it be another maximum points for Play Dutchy in the league? Claimed pole in Brands Hatch and won that race. Similarly in Spa, I think he got pole in Spa. It was only a week ago. But Piero starting to pull away a little bit from Dan Schneider in the early phases of this race. The Dutchman out of the slipstream, but Cameron Boone has stuck with the Porsche. The wind has increased ever so slightly in the opening few laps of this race. There is the possibility and a chance of rain to hit the circuit as it did in the mini-season about a year ago now. Here goes Cameron Boone to the outside of Dan Schneider down the hill, braking heavily for the first corner. Dan's got a little bit later on the brakes. Cameron Boone will try the switchback. Just can't get the acceleration on corner exit he needs to get ahead of the Porsche, which is probably one of the best cars suited for this particular track. A lot of low and medium speed corners, not a lot of long straights, as Dan Schneider's actually gone a little bit wide and off the track. Whether that was lag in the replay, I'm not too sure. Doesn't appear to have cost himself too much time to Cameron behind. Bon Evil, after the mistake on the opening lap, will be trying his best to work his way through the field, down in 6th place on lap 6. With the drivers kind of spaced out in this race after the opening phases. We've got Dutchy and Tim pulling away on the soft compound tyres. Black Country Mush on the racing mediums is indicated in the bottom left by the RM symbol. Currently sits in 10th place, claiming 2 points. The point system changing slightly from last season. We've decided to change it from 30 points for first place down to 25, with second getting 20, 16, 13, 10, 8, 6, 4, 3, 2, 1. So the top 11 score points out of the 16 drivers that entered the league from the start. as this is kind of a beautiful camera shot. The drivers close enough together that we can flick through each of them making their way through the chicane, turn 13 and 14, as Aston's picked up a 5/10 penalty. I believe that was for track limits down at the chicane. He's currently sat behind Wolfie in 7th place. As here goes Cameron Kaboom to the inside. Can he finally find a way past Dan Schneider? It'll become the outside for turn 2. He can keep it nice and tight to the inside. But Dan Schneider defends 4th place for now. You can see on the mini-map the blue arrow in front of these guys of Piero just pulling away slightly as these guys begin to battle the Porsche. Dan Schneider was slightly better tyre wear than Cameron Kaboom. He might be a little bit frustrated being sat behind in the dirty air of Dan Schneider in front, but Dan's doing all he needs to keep Cameron behind. You've got no reason to pull over and let him go through. We're not even a third of the way through this race. 29 laps, we're on lap 7. The number of laps has been slightly increased from when we went to this track for the opening round of season 6 last season. I can't exactly remember how many laps we had last season. I believe it was 28 or 27. But it's now been increased to 29 with the decreased tyre wear to slightly aid different strategies. More powerful undercut attempts, the 1-stop, the 2-stop, maybe even the 3-stop when we head to high tyre day circuit. Dutchie making his way through the final corner in his bright orange Porsche. Can't wait till we go to a night race. If we go to a night race this season, that car definitely is going to stand out on the track like a sore thumb. But Tim doing a great job in as a replacement driver tonight. I say tonight, it's Monday. This race was happened on Friday, but will act as if it is Friday. But Cameron Kaboom just can't get close enough to the through the final sector to have a shot at overtaking Dan Schneider in towards the first corner. Turn 1 is definitely the best place for an overtake at this circuit, maybe even the chicane at turn 14. The two best overtaking opportunities, but it's not impossible to send one up the inside at the hairpin of turn 8 before the Schumacher S's. We've seen it done a few times in this race. You might be looking at that thinking, Dan Schneider and Cameron Kaboom, why have they not got a penalty for running excessively wide in the exit of turn 5? You are allowed to do that in this game. The track limits do allow it. Bon Eagle catching up to these two. We could have a 3-way fight for 4th place, and Wolfie and Aston aren't too far behind them. Black Country Mush keeping up with them as well. Look at the tyre wear difference between Aston and Wiggly Star and Black Country Mush. The poor GT suffering from a lot of tyre degradation in the early phase of this race. Lap 8 of 29, still got 22 laps to go. So we might actually have a battle to find a points paying position on their hands. It looks like Rick Holtz got ahead of Dazzler after his mistake in the final sector. And thank you, Lucas. We'll hopefully see you on track as well, whether it be in GT or F1. Guiducci starts at lap 9 in the lead of this race, about 2 seconds clear of Attengren behind in 2nd place. Still managing to keep up with the Dutchman despite getting a 5/10 penalty early on in the race. Running his Fanatec McLaren used for the livery competition. We ran whilst the servers were down during the Christmas break, but split the end of the first season up. Final 3 races had to be postponed, so the livery competition was the way to keep the GT7 community alive. Pierre in 3rd, taking the final spot on the podium for now, doing a good job ahead of Dan Schneider, Cameron Kaboom and Bon Eagle. Closing in behind 3 cars, battling for 4th place. Wolfie's been caught up by Aston F1 before GT has the Alfa Romeo in its sight, riding aboard with the British driver. Wolfie running a little bit wide on the exit of turn 6, that's going to compromise his run. into 7, down towards the hairpin of turn 8. But Aston's actually on the soft compound tyres, so that explains the higher tyre degradation. And interestingly, different lines being taken by the two drivers. We'll be taking a slightly wider approach for the later apex on the exit of the hairpin. Aston keeping it tight and going for the early apex, kind of like the double apex at the hairpin. It's a really interesting one in GT3 cars. It's kind of similar to No Name in the sense that I found from the race at Spa. Some drivers taking a nice tight approach to the apex, some going wider and getting the better run on the exit, and obviously that will help Wolfie up the Schumacher S's. But can it help him in the run down towards the turn 14-15 chicane? He's got Aston F1 closing in right behind him, now side by side going towards the chicane, but decides to back out of a move, putting Wolfie under pressure, sideways on the exit of the corner. That's not going to help his run down in towards the final corner. Final corner can be a tricky one to get right. Turning too early and you hit the pit lane entrance on the right hand side, but put the power down too early, and you'll get a massive moment of oversteer and possibly lose the car on the exit. Run wide during the gravel. Wolfie defensive in towards the first corner. Aston later on the brakes trying to go round the outside, but will cut back to the apex and get a slingshot effect up towards turn 2 to try and get past his rival Wolfie. Can he do it in towards turn 3? Late on the brakes, down the inside. The Alfa Romeo is going to try and hold it round the outside best he can. Can't see Wolfie as of yet in the camera, but there he goes with the move back down the inside and gets up into 7th, well, maintains 7th place I should say. This is great racing from these two drivers. Arch enemies, you could say, rivals back in season 3 on GT Sport, where in that scenario Aston came out on top and won the championship. They're now side by side down the hill in towards the hairpin at turn 8. Wolfie on the inside, but Aston so much later on the brakes. He's going to try and swoop it round the outside, but Wolfie with the inside line has it covered. Side by side now up the hill through the Schumacher S's, not the Senna S's, that's at Interlagos. But great racing, and Wolfie's up to 7th place. I've noticed that Pierre's up into 2nd place. Tim's dropped to 3rd. A mistake somewhere from the Finnish driver. You can see on lap number 9 he's done a 2 minute 6.5. What happened, I have absolutely no idea. We were too busy involved watching the battle for 7th place, but it's promoted Pierre to 2nd, and Dan now in that firing line for a podium position. Tim decides to start for another lap on those soft compound tyres. We flip back down to this battle for 7th place, a monumental battle between these two. Probably means so much for each of these drivers to finish ahead of the other, knowing their history with each other. But if they battle too much, they're going to be under pressure from Wiggly Style. Black Country Mushed having to take the slow approach through chicane as he was overtaken by Rick Holt, who's promoted himself up into 10th place. As he now rounds the final corner in 10th place on lap 10. Daza still in 12th place, and will try and crawl back up to the back of the cars in 11th place to claim those crucial points on his debut. Happy to notice a very good sponsor on the side of Atom's car. We'll even highlight it in the spectator cam. Marriott Bonvoy, highly recommend. Also, he makes his way now through the hairpin behind Pierre in 3rd place. Cameron Kaboom with a 1 second time penalty for track limits somewhere within the lap. Bon Evil in 9th place and 6th place, struggling to keep up with Cameron Kaboom, but it's going to be brought a lot closer due to the penalty that Cameron's collected. Aston's got himself back up ahead of Wolfie. Is now in 7th place. Let's go back up to the leaders. Clay Duchy on the worn set of the soft compound tyre, stays out for another lap. Might be in on the end of the next lap. Pierre on the mediums. He's still got a couple of laps left in them still. Only about 50% wear, so it could be a one-stop strategy here tonight, taking the mediums. Maybe, I don't know, 18 laps. Can they do 18 laps? I'm not too sure. Bon Evil's now up into 5th place, but is into the pits. Early pit stop for Bon Evil. It must be a 2 stop for him. medium, soft, soft is the strategy that I would guess he's going on to. I don't think we've ever seen a medium, medium, soft as the intended strategy thus far this season, apart from Cameron Kaboom when he accidentally selected the mediums for his second stint last week in Spa after a mistake on lap number 9. Tim's now closed up to the back of Piero, still using the grip that those soft compound tyres have to offer against Piero's medium tyres. For those viewers who are probably more aware of the F1 style of tyre strategy, where there's a crossover phase between the softs and the mediums, or the mediums and the hards, where the hards will eventually become quicker than the mediums when the mediums become worn. That's not really the case in Gran Turismo. Worn softs are probably just as quick as fresh medium tyres, so there isn't really a crossover phase, it's just really puncture, and then that's when the slower compounded tyre is quicker. Let's just say if you turn tyre wear off now, I'd rather be on Tim's soft compound tyres than Piero's mediums at this stage of the race, as is the difference in tyre grip and pace between the compounds. Play Dutchies into the pits at the end of lap 12, off of the softs with Tim follow him in. Indeed he does, pulls over to the right hand side of the circuit and dives straight into the pit lane. Consequently, Piero takes the lead of the race. That is the thing, the Cameron Kaboom does make a point, worn softs are more sketchy than fresh mediums. Obviously there's a degree of which you define worn softs. I would not want to be on those soft compound tyres. If I was Tim, I wouldn't stay out for another lap on those. Aston's also into the pits, has got a 5/10 penalty. ART Bonneville has come out in 10th place after making his first pit stop of the race onto a set of the red striped soft compound tyre. Where does he filter out onto the circuit? Tim's gone for another set of mediums, interestingly, and he's going to come out side by side with Bonneville. It's their contact between the two. Just enough room, I believe. I don't think there was contact, but Bonneville comes up just ahead of Tim, who's going to want to try and get past as quickly as possible. Having said that, Bonnie's on a set of the soft compound tyres actually. So Tim onto the mediums, off of the softs, Bonneville onto the softs, off of the mediums. And now Bonneville can try and push and pull away from the Finnish driver behind. It could be an interesting final stint between those two if they're on the alternate strategy. Dutch on a fresh set of the medium compound tyres behind Cameron Kaboom, Dan Schneider and Piero, who now leads this race. Top 3 all on worn sets of medium compound tyres that they started the race on. Nearly halfway through this race already, 25 minutes in to the 29 lap race. We've got 3 different manufacturers, 3 different nationalities in the top 3. Dutchy with the first lap of the race so far, 1:55.3. Let's see if that can be beaten throughout this race. We'll be up into 5th place and we can start in 6th. Running now all over the back of Rick Holt, going in towards the final corner, side by side with the Dutchman, and ahead as they go through the final corner. Running now up into 7th place. Rick Holt down to 8th, but is in the slipstream of the car in front. Let's see what the Porsche can do against the Alfa Romeo, closing in all the time in the slipstream. Is he going to go for a move on the inside? Yes, he does. Pulls over, but isn't mating up on the brakes. Just backs out of that one and tucks into the just tucks in behind the Alfa Romeo. The worn mediums on the Porsche who definitely struggle to keep up against the fresh, soft compound tyres. Tim running a little bit wide and sideways as he dips a couple of wheels onto the AstroTurf. Aston pitting on the end of the last lap to try and get out ahead of Wolfie, who was battling before the pit stop phase. But Piero still leads this race after Tim made his mistake and actually made his pit stop. So it'll be interesting to see what the strategies are for this race. Looks like some drivers might be on a 2-stop. But we will just have to wait and see. Only time will tell. Piero staying out. Cameron Boom in 3rd place behind Dan Schneider. Will be doing his best to try and close down that gap. Whilst also not wasting time battling anyone, because he's got Play actually closing in behind him on a fresh set of medium compound tyres. Hello and welcome to everyone tuning in to round number 5 of the Gavra Racing GT7 season. We're here at the Nurburgring, where Play actually started on pole position and has led the majority of this race, but made his pit stop on lap 12 for a set of the medium compound tyres after starting on the softs. Looking for any battles throughout the midfield, and Bon Evil gaining on Willie Stahl, the closest battle out on the circuit, as he tries to pursue his best finish. What am I trying to say? As he tries to work his way back through the field after a mistake on the opening lap. Here he goes down the inside of Wiggly Style and gets the move done. Those fresh softs, more superior than those worn medium tyres. But just bringing up the championship standings going into this race, Play Dutch with that 6-point lead advantage. Will be extending that advantage as it stands, currently in 4th place, again ahead of Bon Evil 6, but there are still drivers yet to make a pit stop, so that points gap could still make a difference. We've got Pierre in 3rd place in the standings and 1st out on the circuit to try and claw back points to the front runners. 4th, 5th and 7th in the championship. Toussaint, myself and Tiger not here for today's race, so we'll be missing out on crucial points. Cameron Kaboom in 6th place on 33 points going into this race, running in 3rd place. Will jump Matty in this race, or will jump myself I should say. I'm not on the track, I'm not on the grid, so I can probably refer to myself in the 1st person. And actually, if Cameron Kaboom does get a really good finish, 3rd or above, will jump Toussaint in the championship. Tim now down the inside of Rick Holt in towards the final corner. Easy move for the McLaren driver, but goes tight up against the pit wall to try and break the toe. Goes defensive now to the inside from the challenging Rick Holt, who's late on the brakes to the outside, but those worn medium tyres are starting to degrade and has to concede the position for now. Tim up into 7th place, and he's dropped a little bit of time to Bon Evil, although there are 2 compound of tyre difference between the 2 drivers, one on the mediums and one on the softs. Looks like the drivers who are staying out for this length of time I should say, are committing to a one-stop strategy from medium to soft. A little mistake from Cameron Kaboom might see Play Dutchy find a way through the Schumacher races. Look at the grip advantage, the speed that Play Dutchy has through the corners, riding on board with the Dutchman. The door is open on the inside for him to go for the move and up into 3rd place. I don't think Cameron wants to fight this too much on those worn tyres. His race comes after he makes his pit stop onto the soft, which he'll try and take for the final 12-13 laps in this race. Any pit stops, I don't think we're going to see any. Oh no, Pierre's actually into the pits. Pierre into the pits at the end of lap 16, so the mediums probably can confidently go 13 laps in this race. Dutchy pitted on lap 12 and there's 13 laps to go, so these guys with less fuel can take those soft tyres a couple of laps further than those who started the race on them. Dutchy, having pitted on lap 12, can now stay out for another lap, as he doesn't look like he's going to make another pit stop till the end of the race, as Cameron Kaboom actually stays out for another lap on those mediums and will be under pressure to do a really good in-lap to try and either get ahead or minimise the time lost to Piero and Dan Schneider into the pits of the mediums and onto the softs. Welcome Dazza in the chat, hope you're having a good day. As Black Country Merchant running in 9th place ahead of Aston F1, who's having a battle with Wrigley Style for their 10th place position. Wrigley with a move down the inside gets that 10th place and will get 2 points at the end of the race, one more than if he finished in 11th, as he gets ahead of Aston. Dutchy in first. Bonnie will now enter 3rd place, but can he take those soft tyres? 13 more laps in this race. He's already done 4 laps, so 17 laps on the mediums is gonna be a tough job. Wolfie running in 4th place, has stayed out on those mediums. Tim has actually jumped Piero, but the Frenchman in that McLaren is on a fresh set of soft compound tyres. Tim, having started on the soft, is now what's the word? It's now, bear with me, I will get there. I can't think of it. But Tim now has to use the medium compound tyres, as he started on the softs, and with the regulations being that drivers must use 2 different tyre compounds throughout the race, meaning that he couldn't go for another set of the soft compound tyres, otherwise he got a 1 minute time penalty at the end of the race. She ran a little bit wide on the exit of turn 13, and he's taken a lot of inside curve that's really unsettled that McLaren. He's now under pressure from Piero as Cameron Gaboon comes into the pit. Wolfie follows him in. He might have a change of position to 3rd place, which will become, 5th place, which will become 3rd. On board with the McLaren as the sun begins to set on the horizon at turn 1. Piero late in the brakes, but not late enough to send one down the inside. Dan Schneider's promoted up into 5th place. Where are these drivers going to feed out into the circuit? Cameron Kaboom's in 6th place. Wolfie still in the pits in 7th. Where's Wrigley and Aston F1 going to filter? Aston being on the mediums. These guys are going to be on the softs. Wolfie's released. This could be close between a couple of drivers. Here comes Wrigley now down the start-finish straight. Wolfie slower speed coming out the pit lane, has to stick to the right-hand side of the circuit, but comes out ahead of Wrigley Style, and interestingly ahead of Aston F1. He's ran wide and knocked over a couple of cones, and he's now might lose a position to Rick Holt, who swoops round the outside off the Brit and up into 9th place. Pierre now side by side, swoops it round the outside of Tim, down at the hairpin of turn 8, takes a really nice wide line, swoops it for the inside at turn number 9. The Schumacheresses side by side between the 2 McLarens. Tim's off the track in the gravel as Pierre now takes 3rd place up into a podium position, and the advantage he has on those fresh soft compound tyres. Whether there was contact or lag, it was hard to tell, but Tim with the dirty medium compound tyres has made him another mistake and ran wide through turn 11. Dan Schneider now will try his best to close that gap on those soft compound tyres, but Wrigley and Wolfie out side by side through the Schumacheresses. Wrigley up into 7th place. He's got ahead of Wolfie, both on the same soft compound tyres, albeit Wolfie's are slightly fresher. But Rick Holt, Aston, Wolfie and Wrigley now in a 4-way fight for 7th place with 11 laps to go in this race. This could go right down to the wire. Here goes Rick Holt on the back of Wolfie going in towards the chicane. Is he brave enough to send one down the inside? He's not close enough to go for it on this occasion. You can hear a little bit of wheel spin on the exit of the chicane, and also from, I think that was Dan Schneider going through turn 1. Played up to with a sizable advantage in this race. I don't think those soft compound tyres are going to the end on that Alfa Romeo. I believe a pit stop is due for Bon Evil. With 10 laps to go in this race, Wrigley Star in 7th place is ahead of Wolfie in 8th, Rick Holt in 9th and Aston in 10th. The closest battle out on the circuit. Black Country Mush in 11th place, adding 1 extra point to his points tally if he can keep it. Well, I say if he can keep it, he's in 11th out of 11th. So if he finishes this race, we'll get that point. Born Evil now at the fastest lap of the race, a 1 minute 54.9, set on lap 16. Let's see if he can keep that, or if anyone has the pace to beat it. Wolfie and Rick Holt side by side in towards the hairpin. Rick Holt with the inside line, breaks later than Wolfie. They're door to door, side by side, with the sun setting in the background. Wolfie improving on his personal best, despite going wheel to wheel with Rick Holt, and more pace on the table for Wolfie. The Irishman running in 9th place, started this race in 8th, had a pretty decent start to the race on those medium compound tyres, but as the race has unfolded, he's dropped behind Rick Holt and Wrigley Style, both of which are on the soft compound tyres, so it's going to be down to raw pace to see who can finish this race in 7th place and who can make the least mistakes. One Evil is definitely going to be making a pit stop in the next couple of laps. Those soft compound tyres have been on since lap 12. It's lap 20 and there's still 10 laps to go. They're certainly not going to make it to the end. Dan Schneider and Tim having a battle for 4th place. The BWT Porsche trying to get at the Fanatec McLaren. Here they go, side by side. Under the sign they go in towards the second sector. Down with the inside line, makes a little bit of contact with Tim, who's gone wide and off the track. The slightest bit of contact, but he's recovered it nicely. Dan Schneider now up into 4th place. Tim drops to 5th. As Rick Cole ahead of Wolfie, behind Wiggly Star, who's doing a good job in that Supra to keep them behind. It struggles in the corners, but excels in the straights. It's the opposite of the Porsche. But this could be a really interesting battle between these two drivers. Rick Holt's going to have the advantage in the middle sector, in the middle part of the track where it matters the most, but Wiggly's going to have the edge down the back straight and the start finish straight to possibly keep him behind. Rick Holt not close enough for a move in towards the Schumacher S's as Born Evil's into the pits for the second time this race. He could drop a couple of positions, maybe behind Dan Schneider, even Cameron Kaboom in this race. Rick Holt going slightly wide through turn 12, but it means he's going to carry more cornering speed on the exit and improve his chances of going for a lunge up the inside, but on this occasion he's not close enough to the back of the Swedish driver. Let's ride on board from the rear wing of the Toyota Supra, and Rick Holt's got a 5-10 penalty for exceeding track limits down at the chicane. A really easy mistake to do, but this is where Wiggly Star has the upper hand. He has the advantage down the straights, and it's enough to keep the Porsche behind. You can see Wolby in the background just dropping off in the Alfa Romeo as he struggles for a little bit of pace behind these guys, maybe impacted by the dirty air. The Alfa Romeo is not the best car on the grid through the corners, but Rick Holt, he's going to send one down the inside of the Toyota. Doesn't care that he's got a 5-10 penalty that he'll have to serve this lap. He makes the move stick up into 7th place and will do his best job to push so hard on this lap through the corners where he gets the advantage over Wiggly Star to try and claw an 8, 9, 10th advantage, maybe even a second at best if he can, to try and stay ahead of Wiggly when he serves that penalty. But here comes Wolfie out of nowhere, trying to go round the outside of Wiggly Star. This is what Rick Holt wants. He wants the two cars behind the battle so he can serve his penalty and come up behind both of them. Wiggly Star kicking up a little bit of gravel on the exit of turn 8. This is a great battle for 7th place. More gravel being kicked up onto the circuit by Bon Evil, where he made his mistake on lap 1. Tim taking a lot of curb on the exit of the chicane. Don't think he'll get a penalty for that. As Dan Schneider runs in 3rd place, behind Pierre in the 2nd. Dutchy already nearly through the 2nd sector. Rick Holt serves penalty. Has he done enough to keep ahead of Wiggly Star? Goes defensive in towards the chicane, later on the brakes with the inside line.
and stays in 7th place for now. Wiggly's got a little bit wide actually, could allow Wolfie to make the move and capitalise on the mistake, but just brings the Irishman closer. We have a new fastest lap contender, Piero 54.9. As he runs in 2nd place, we'll get another point in the championship if he can keep it. Aston's into the pit, all for the medium compound tyres, possibly going for a fastest lap attempt. Rickholt was pulled away from Wiggly Star, who I think starting to struggle a little bit in this race, maybe trying to push a little bit too hard to keep up with the Porsche, because he's under pressure now from Wolfie, whose tyres are in slightly better condition than his. Front runners are rather separated in this race, so this is our closest battle out on the circuit. No me, no Tiger, no Toussaint, but still these drivers provide great racing, great close racing. Wiggly Stars ran wide. Dust and gravel being thrown up onto the circuit. Still keeps Wolfie behind for now. Not long left in this race, nearly at the 45-minute mark. Wolfie now going for a move down the inside. He's seen an open door and he's going to go for it, but couldn't quite find that move down the inside. Black Country Mush and Aston might have a little bit of a battle for 10th place, as one Brit is ahead of the other for now. I think Wiggly Star is starting to struggle, whether he's trying to save fuel or not. Yeah, I'm not sure. It looks like he's got enough to go to the end. Rick Holt now with another 5/10 penalty. But Wiggly goes defensive to the inside very early. Knows where he wants his car to be. Here goes Wolfie. Pulls over to the left hand side of the circuit. Takes the racing line. Late on the brakes. Trying to go around the outside. Can he find the grip on those soft compound tyres to make it work? Not on this occasion. I'm starting to get the impression that it's only a matter of time before Wolfie could find a way through. Really started struggling in the corners in that Supra. Wolfie's got a good run through turn 5. Can he now find a way past that Toyota? It doesn't look like he can on this occasion. Goes 2.5 tenths up on his personal best through the first sector in the battle for 8th place. Rick Holt just up the road with a 5/10 penalty that he'll serve on this lap. Meanwhile, Black Country Mush keeping Aston ahead for now on those fresh soft compound tyres. Wolfie's gone wide and he's nearly off the track. Luckily not onto the gravel, otherwise it would have just washed his Alfa Romeo into the gravel, just about kept it within the track limits. As he tried looking for a move on Wiggly Style. Rick Holt's pulled away from those two battling behind. Cameron Kaboom and Tim might actually start having a battle for 4th place as they begin to reel in Dan Schneider for the battle for the podium position. Plenty of action towards the end of this race, and that's what makes this league so entertaining, is we have such a fiery start to the races, but then it begins to die down. I wouldn't say die down, but the timber starts to burn during the middle phase of the race, where drivers are potentially on different strategies, but then it just ignites and blows up towards the end of these races. Cameron Kaboom fighting for a 4th place finish in this race behind Tim. As they make their way through the technical first sector of the Nurburgring GP, through turn 5 they go to finish the first sector, as Cameron Kaboom is now going to go for a move down the inside. This is where Tim went off the track a couple of laps ago, but they've kept it within track limits this time round. Cameron Kaboom with a beautiful switchback move, beautifully executed, side by side, no longer side by side, and now ahead of Tim, going in towards the hairpin of turn 8. A little bit of contact as Cameron parks his car beautifully on the apex of the corner, not denying Tim the opportunity to switch back on him, and makes it stick up into 4th place, using the grip those soft compound tyres have to offer maybe a strategic error from Tim, starting on those soft compound tyres, has the advantage in the early phase of the race, but is starting to struggle now. Meanwhile, Black Country Rush now under pressure from Aston F1 in the battle for 10th place. Wolfie's just dropped a couple of tenths behind Wiggly Star, which they still have Rick Holt in their sights. Aston 4 tenths up on his personal best. Cameron Kaboom will be looking to pull away from Tim and try and close down the gap. Now starting to try and claim a podium in this race. Black Country Mush might be conceding this position for 10th place. He's ran wide at the hairpin. Aston with the inside line there, side by side and door to door, wheel to wheel, but Black Country Mush has just done enough in the Mercedes. The black and red Mercedes stays ahead of the Golf Ford GT. Cameron Kaboom is closing down that gap to Dan Schneider. He wants his podium finish. Black Country Mush has picked up a 5/10 penalty for track limits after the Schumacher S's. Here comes Aston F1 to the inside at turn 13, comes to the outside for 14. Black Country Mush with the inside late on the brakes, keeps the position. Great racing between these two drivers. Aston with fresh, soft compound tyres. We try to claim that extra point for finishing in 10th place that we do for 9th, for 11th. Black Country Mush now has a start-finish straight to try and defend this position on board with the 4GT, which has had a knock in its straight-line speed performance. Black Country doesn't bother defending the inside line because Aston's gone for it down the inside, and Aston now gets that move done up into 10th place. Black Country Mush back down to 11th, but does have a 5/10 penalty, so will struggle to keep up when he serves that. But it might not be over just yet. Black Country staying with him. Meanwhile up front, Dan Schneider running in the 3rd place, Cameron Kaboom in 4th, and closing. No, neither of these drivers have finished on the podium of this so far this season. No, that's a lie. Cameron Kaboom finished 3rd in the Red Bull Ring. I think. At least I'm pretty sure he did. So, correction, one of these drivers have finished on the podium so far this season, but that driver is in 4th place. Darren Schneider famously broke the pole position curse last season. Started on pole and won at Dragon Trail Seaside for his first GT7 win. We'll be looking to try and find his first podium in season 7 after having his highest finish at Sardinia. Four laps to go, lap 26 of 29. We've crossed the 50-minute mark in this race. Tim started to drop off the back of Cameron Kaboom as those medium compound tyres just aren't up to speed with the softs. Bonnie will down to 6th place after leading a part of the first lap after getting a good launch in the Alfa Romeo, but made a mistake in, a couple of corners from where he is on the track currently. Rick Holt, after making a mistake at the chicane, he's done well to recover in 7th place, or to 7th place for now, as Wiggly Star continues to keep Wolfie behind in this race. Aston has pulled out an advantage to Black Country Mush, those fresh soft compound tyres working well on that Ford GT as Play Dutchie continues to lead more laps this season. That Porsche working well for the Dutchman. Just the consistency week in, week out, and you can see on his lap times how close they are. 2 laps nearly identical on two occasions, lap 18 and 19, lap 24 and 25. A lot can be learned from watching the fastest. Cameron Capoon still hunting down Darren Schneider. 3 laps to go in this race. Wiggly Style under pressure from Wolfie, who's stuck with the Swedish driver throughout the majority of the second half of this race. Does Wolfie have enough left in the tank to find a way past that Subaru, who's done well to keep him behind? Bon Evil though, disappointing weekend for him so far, dropping more points in the championship fight after what looked like such a promising start. Second in the Red Bull Ring, followed by a dominant sprint and feature race in the Italian Grand Prix at Sardinia, but then has dropped off Brands Hatch, Spa, and now the Nurburgring, the Alfa Romeo. Start asking questions. Was it the correct choice of car? One that has got such high tyre wear and high degradation, struggles in the corners compared to the other cars, but does have the advantage in the top, in the straight line speed and down the straights. So races like Red Bull Ring and Sardinia, Deep Forest Raceway, which we have in 2 weeks' time, those are the races where Bonneville needs to claim maximum points to keep the championship alive, otherwise Ducci is going to run away with it. And I saw the comments in the chat, I didn't quite catch the name. Glad to have you tuning into these GT streams. I hope you have enjoyed it thus far, whether you're a new viewer or a regular. It's great to have you watching us. As we're in the final few laps of this race, we're now down to 11 drivers. Some couldn't quite make it to this race weekend, some didn't finish after starting with 13 drivers on the grid. We're down to 11. Cameron Kaboom in 4th place, now under pressure from Tim. Those soft compound tyres starting to show a little bit of wear on the Lexus. Maybe the mediums are starting to come back into it. The wind speed has dropped since the start of the race, as Ulrich Holt going a little bit wide through the hairpin of turn 8. Wiggly Style under pressure, still from Wolfie in 9th place. As Ducci starts the final lap of the race, it looks good for him. It does look good to claim another maximum points in this championship fight. Crucial points in the early stage of the championship, albeit we're in round 5 of 13, but with sprint races along the way and plenty more racing action. It's not over till the checkered flag waves in the last lap of the last race, and it's these races at the starts where claiming as many points as you can is crucial in the championship fight. Looks like Wiggly Star's just got enough it left in him to finish ahead of Wolfie in this race. Aston's got ahead of Black Country Merchant, stayed ahead after he made his second pit stop in the race. Bonneville's day has gone from bad to worse with a 5/10 penalty on the last lap. Looks like Cameron Caboom might just stay ahead of Tim, but Dan Schneider is now going to be welcomed to the podium club. The podiums this season, has finished on the podium in previous GT leagues before, but is a first for him this season. It's only taken him 5 rounds to do it. But back up to the race leader, Ducci. I mean, he went into this race with a 6-point advantage in the championship after a drop of form at Sardinia. But there's nothing else more to say about this man. He won in the Red Bull Ring, maximum points in Brands Hatch with the race win last week in Spa. Started on pole, has led pretty much every single lap. Not quite the Grand Slam because he hasn't got the fastest lap, but rounds the final corner, nearly ends in catastrophe, but the flash of the lights as he sees the checkered flag first and wins the German Grand Prix here at the Nurburgring GP. Piero will cross the line and take a healthy P2 finish in his championship fight as well. Dan Schneider with a great strategy in this race, managed it beautifully with the battle between him and Piero. Cameron Kaboom claims his first podium of the season, finishes in third place for the team. A great finish for Dan Schneider. Cameron Kaboom in fourth place, ahead of Tim in fifth after he started in second place. Bon Evil led the first couple of corners in this race, but a mistake. Another mistake! He's not crossed the line! There we go, now he's crossed the line. Nearly a disastrous end to a disastrous race for him. That will certainly be going on the bloopers if he lost the position to Rick Holt, who's in 7th, ahead of Wigglestar in 8th, and Wolfie in 9th, who couldn't find a way past the Swedish driver. Aston F1 pitted late on the race for a set of the soft compound tyres, tried to go for fastest lap. The best he could do was a 56.7, goes through the final couple of corners, but claims more points in this battle with Black Country Mush and Wiggly Style. Although the drivers in front of him in the championship finished a couple of positions in front of him in this race, he finishes in 10th place ahead of Black Country Mush in 11th, and we're just going to stop it there as he crosses the line to finish in 11th place. But what a race here at the Nurburgring. These drivers never fail to disappoint despite a few absences from some of the top drivers in the championship. But to go through the grid from back to front, we've got Black Country Mush in 11th, behind Aston in 10th, Wolfie in 9th, couldn't quite get past Wiggly Star in 8th, Rick Holt recovered well to 7th place, with Bonnie dropping down to 6th, Tim down to 5th place, Cameron Kaboom in 4th, our podium finishers, Dan Schneider in 3rd, Pierre in 2nd, and Play Dutchy in 1st place, once again where he so often is. And there we go, what a beautiful camera shot that is right there of the Dunlop hairpin with the sun setting in the background of your race winner for round number 5. So there you have it, Dutchy takes 4 wins from 5 in this 13 round GT7 championship and extends his advantage in the Drivers' Championship. As well as that, Dutchy and Bon Evil extending their lead in the Teams Championship, going into Dragon Trail Gardens for next week's race in Croatia. There you have it, great racing action from all drivers on the grid, and congrats to those who finished in the top 3. Make sure to join us next time on Saturday evening, where we have the first race at Dragon Trail Gardens on GT7. We've been there only once going forwards, we've been there once going backwards, and both have been crucial championship deciding races. Will this be another crucial twist in this entertaining championship, where we should have the return of myself, Tiger Assassin, and Toussaint? I've been XNG. I hope you have enjoyed, and without further ado, that's what you say before the start of the race. Goodbye, everyone. I'll see you guys next week. Oh, and subscribe. Do that.